Hey guys, Fox here, and today we're going to be talking about a topic that might be a bit out of the blue to some of you, but a lot of you probably do agree with this, and that is the fact that the Birmingham Stallions winning the 2024 UFL Championship is something that might not be the best thing for the league. Now, I've seen a lot of people talk about this, why it's a good thing, why it's a bad thing, and today I wanted to talk about what I believe is the good, the bad, and the ugly to the Birmingham Stallions winning the 2024 United Football League Championship and completing their three-peat. So if you end up enjoying this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel since we are doing a giveaway to 1,000 subscribers. And without further ado, let's get started with the good. Now, two of these are pretty similar, but the first one is, of course, that you now have a true team to beat. Look, there's a lot of people who watched the UFL this year that did not actually watch the USFL in 2023, who only heard that the Stallions were this great team and didn't know that, yes, the Stallions were clearly the best team in spring football. Well, they got to see it this past season. Look, this past season, the Stallions played many games where they didn't even play nearly their best football, and they still pulled off a 9-1 regular season record and won the championship in convincing fashion. So now you have that true team to beat, which also means that all their games will be must-see. It's just like when you see the Kansas City Chiefs in the NFL today, it's the team that you always have to go watch, because whenever they do lose, it is a big deal, and whoever beats them immediately gets a ton of press, a ton of coverage, and a ton of fanfare, because you now have that true villain-esque team. And of course, you now have people who start to ask the question, could they beat the Carolina Panthers? Could they beat the Alabama Crimson Tide? And that's becoming a more and more legit question. Look, everybody pretty much agrees that the UFL team is essentially one that would be a top 25 ranked college team. They wouldn't necessarily be guaranteed to be the top of the line, even though they have more true, grown men on their team. The fact is a lot of those higher up programs like in Alabama or Georgia have a lot of guys who end up being first round picks and all that. At the same token, though, this Stallions team is one of the only ones that you could legitimately see being a top 5 ranked college team or beating them. Because the fact is that this is a team that, well, they just keep winning. No matter what they do, they always seem to win. And now you're going to have people asking that question. Could they actually beat a team like the Carolina Panthers? A team that in the NFL is just basically the new Cleveland Browns, where they have a terrible owner who basically does everything wrong, and whose quarterback, questionable, receiving core, hopefully better and all that, but especially last year's Panthers team. So now you're going to have a lot of people start asking that question. Now, yes, it may be, trivial or comedic to some people, but to others, it's a legit question that's going to be asked. Now, granted, it's not the same as the original USFL in the 80s where they had legit talent, where saying could the Philadelphia Stars compete in the NFL really wasn't far-fetched. This one might be a bit far-fetched to say anything like that. Now, college, not so much, but the NFL, yes. But it's going to start asking that question, which is a good thing for the league, as you're going to have more people talking about this team. What about the bad? Well, the bad, first and foremost, is the USFL conference becomes unbelievably boring. Look, you're going to have 4 teams next year as well, barring a last-second expansion that, nobody sees coming. So what ends up happening with it is that, well, the USFL conference becomes almost pointless. Look, the USFL Conference has the Birmingham Stallions, who are going to be guaranteed one of the 2 playoff spots. The Michigan Panthers have gotten better and better and better. They went from being this team that was 2-8, only could beat the Maulers, to finishing 4-6 and coming this close to making the championship game. And then they ended up finishing 7-3 this past season, and if it wasn't for that horrid third quarter and Danny Etling performance in the second half, could have made it to the championship again. So if you're a Showboats or Roughnecks fan, it's one of those where it's like, why bother caring about it? You know damn well you ain't making the playoffs. The Showboats could if they get some retools, but the Roughnecks especially, them making the playoffs would be a massive shock next year. So if the Stallions continue this dominance, the USFL Conference becomes something that nobody really has to care about because it's basically a foregone conclusion. Look, the XFL Conference had 2 teams that missed the playoffs in the XFL make the playoffs, while 2 teams that were in the championship game for the XFL didn't even make the playoffs. Whereas in the USFL, the 2 teams that made the playoffs in the USFL in 2023, they made it again this year. So the USFL conference becomes incredibly boring as you have 2 very top-heavy teams. Well, you have a top-heavy conference with 2 teams that are just going to be great. Again, Memphis could definitely rebound. They have the talent to do so, but we'll see. And then, of course, the parity gets hurt even more. I mean, you can't really argue this. I mean, the parity is just, it's already pretty poor in the league, but when you have one team that just keeps dominating and dominating and dominating, it's a lot like the original, or not the original, but the more recent original UFL with the Locomotives, right? They made it to all 3 championship games. In the 4th year when they shut down, they were looking poised to make it a 4th time. They won it twice. If you have one team that's dominating the league, it gets kind of boring. And you have the parity end up suffering from it. And again, because especially with the USFL conference being the way it is, it's very real to see the exact same conference standings play out, where you have two teams that combine for some stupid record in the division. I mean, Michigan and Birmingham combined for a 10-2 record in the division. That's unbelievable. And then, of course, it makes an insufferable fan base. Look, Stallions fan base might not be as crazy as some Battlehawks fans. I'm talking about the online, overall, insufferable type of fan base, where some Battlehawks fans are incredible. Not of course, I'm not talking about everybody, but you see a lot of Battlehawks fans that go and, make these wild cases or claims about players and all that. The Stallions are becoming like that as well. The fact is that they're going to, because they're going to keep winning. If they keep winning, it's just like the Chiefs. You get to a point where the fan base becomes just insufferable, a bunch of bandwagon fans. And it also makes it to where that the attendance makes it be like, oh, okay, all these guys who are here, a lot of them are going to be those people. So that's also a poor thing. You don't want to have a team just keep winning, because then they get to that point where they're just going to be insufferable. And of course, because if the Stallions were to start losing, it's very real to see a lot of those Stallions fans bail because they're not used to the team losing. We'll see, but that's the bad, the ugly. The attendance problem looks really bad. Look, we hope that the UFL pulls off some good marketing during the offseason. We hope that it fixes some of these issues. But we talked about it during the season. The attendance for the Stallions looked terrible when you consider how good the team is. They finished 9-1 in the regular season, made it to the playoffs, and they barely cracked 10K in 2 of their games. And they did hit 10K in 2 of them with, the 12K and the 14K game in week 3 and 7. But overall, when you look at them, they can't even average 10,000, or they can't get 10,000 every game. They have to rely on A.J. McCarron coming home in the season opener to average over 10K a game. That's for a team that's dominating the league. Again, it makes you wonder, if this team wasn't performing to that high of a level, what would their attendance be? Would it be less than 8K per game? It honestly could be. So we'll see what happens, but again, it makes the attendance problem look really bad when you consider the team is winning, especially the way that they've been winning. Then number 2 is going to be, why bother watching the league? This is the big one, as well as for makes a boring league. They both kind of go hand in hand again. They're pretty similar, but they do need to be addressed twice, pretty much. If you have a team that over the past 3 Spring Football League years, we'll call it, not season since the XFL, finished 9-1, 8-2, and 9-1, and won the championship with their 6 playoff games, and I tweeted about this a while ago, the only team that gave them a true 4-quarter fight were the Stars in the 2022 championship game. Every other game has been over before the 4th quarter started. Now, whether it be a total shutout like it was against San Antonio, whether it be a total blowout like it was against New Orleans last year in 2023, or it be a game that basically became out of hand in 2022 against the Breakers, they've never been challenged outside of that Stars game. So if you're a casual fan heading into this next season, it's like why should I really watch until I know the Stallions aren't going to dominate the league? If I already know this team's going to finish with 8+ wins and go win the championship game, why care? Remember, XFL fans kept on trying to talk about how the Stallions weren't as good as people said. They were just in the USFL. Then they came in, they dominated. I mean, USFL fans were hoping that, hey, we have the dispersal draft. We're going to get new talent. There's no way the Stallions can really benefit. They dominated. So, where are you at now? Where you're at now is with a team in the Birmingham Stallions that just looks to be unbeatable. They have had 3 different starting quarterbacks in championship games. And they've had 4 total quarterbacks that would be damn good in most other teams. People forget how good Jamar Smith was in 2022 before all the sickness and minor injuries late in the season. Alex Magoo, we all know about his insane 2023 season. Adrian Martinez, Matt Corral. I mean, you have 4 QBs there who, if you were to take them from their respective year that they played and plop them into this year, all 4 would be starters in the league. I mean, let's call it like it is. All 4 would be starters in the league, okay? Matt Corral is starting over any QB in the league currently, except pretty much Perez and McCarron, and maybe Cookus, pending how much you blame on Cookus, how much you blame on the O-line. Alex Magoo is literally starting over anyone, even Martinez. That's how good his season was. And Jamar Smith, he's starting over Teamu for sure. So you have a team that has had 4 QBs that have played significant minutes, that have started games, that have been incredible. If they lose both Corral and Martinez in the offseason, Why would you be worried in the slightest? They just lost an MVP to get an MVP quarterback. They're just probably going to get somebody else who's good because, again, if you're a team that's dominating, of course a free agent would want to go there. If you're a free agent quarterback, why would you go to, like, let's say, the Memphis Showboats who have an O-line problem when you can go to Birmingham and potentially guarantee a championship win, guarantee a good time on the field? You know what I mean? So the issue is that it becomes a boring league with the Stallions continuing to be dominant. This is where it gets ugly because, again, this could be the one thing that really hinders the UFL's growth. The casual audience knows the Stallions are good. If they keep being good, if they keep continuing to dominate, for let's just say they get the 4-peat, I mean, it's just going to be tough to look at the league and say, yeah, it's worth watching if you're a casual fan. If you're a hardcore football fan or spring football fan, you'll watch it anyway. But if you're a casual fan who just wants to watch a fun league, not necessarily fun games, you don't want to follow a league where the conclusion was made before the season even started. So the Stallions, for the league's sake, need to be at least somewhat worse next year. Even if they finish 7-3 and win the championship game, that still gives some hope that the league is not going to be dominated by them. Because again, they have had 4 losses since being brought back from the 80s. They've had 4 losses. 2 of those were to last-second interceptions in Week 9, while they're 8-0 hilariously, and 2 of them were in like the first 5 weeks of a season. That's it. Those are their losses. So, I mean, compare that to, like, just look at this year. Just look at this year. No team had less than 4 losses across the entire year, right? Because you had a bunch of teams finish 7-3, but they all lost in the playoffs. So if you add that, that's 4 losses. So every team in this league this year, aside the Stallions, lost at least 4 games, including the postseason. These Stallions have lost 4 games in their history since being brought back. That's not good for the league. So with that, that'll do it. This has been ZombFox. Let me know what you think down below about the Stallions winning the championship, if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Again, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're doing a giveaway with a bunch of stuff once we hit 1,000 subscribers. I recently did add the championship game rally towel to it. And as always, if you want to become a channel member to support the channel, it's only 99 cents a month. You get an exclusive video every month that's about a sports league that is not the UFL, as well as a bunch of other benefits. And as always, guys, have a great night.